Most Americans have absolutely no idea this just happened. Right now, as millions of retirees go about their daily lives, a decision has been handed down from the highest court in the land. A decision so significant, so sweeping, and so unanimous that not a single one of the 9 Supreme Court justices disagreed. 9-0. That doesn't happen very often in Washington, and when it does, you need to pay attention. Because this ruling doesn't just affect one state, one employer, or one group of people. This ruling reaches into the retirement accounts, pension checks, and Social Security benefits of tens of millions of Americans. And the ripple effects are already beginning to be felt across all 50 states. If you are retired, if you are planning to retire in the next few years, or if you have a 401k, a pension, or you receive Social Security, what we are about to walk you through could directly affect your financial future. So stay with us, because this is one of the most important retirement videos you will watch this year. Let's start at the beginning, because to understand why this decision matters so much, you first need to understand what the Supreme Court actually ruled. The case is known as Cunningham v. Cornell University, and it was decided unanimously by all 9 justices of the United States Supreme Court. On the surface, it may sound like just another lawsuit between employees and a university, but the implications of this ruling stretch far beyond a college campus. At the heart of this case is a law called ERISA, the Employee Retirement Income Security Act of 1974. This is the federal law that governs how private and institutional retirement plans must be managed. It sets the rules for 401k plans, 403b plans, pension funds, and more. The lawsuit centered on a claim that Cornell University's retirement plan administrators had allowed the plan to overpay for record-keeping services. Essentially, that the people managing employees' retirement money were not doing their job prudently. Lower courts had thrown out similar cases for years, making it nearly impossible for ordinary workers and retirees to fight back when they suspected their retirement funds were being mismanaged. The Supreme Court changed all of that. In a 9-0 ruling, the court held that employees and retirees no longer have to meet a nearly impossible legal hurdle just to get their case heard. They no longer have to prove at the very start of a lawsuit that no exemption exists under the law. Instead, the burden now shifts. If a financial institution or employer wants to argue they did nothing wrong, they must prove it themselves. That single legal shift changes everything. Now, here is why this matters so deeply for retirees and for anyone who has ever trusted an employer, a financial institution, or a pension board with their retirement savings. For decades, the legal system was quietly stacked against ordinary Americans when it came to challenging how their retirement money was being managed. If you suspected that your 401k fees were too high, that your pension fund was being invested poorly, or that someone was taking an unreasonable cut of your retirement savings, you had very few realistic options. The legal barriers to bringing a case were so steep that most lawyers wouldn't even take the case, and most working people couldn't afford to fight it alone. The Supreme Court's unanimous decision effectively lowers that barrier and opens the courthouse door for millions of Americans. And because the ruling applies to all ERISA-covered retirement plans across the entire country, this isn't a regional story. This is a nationwide shift in how retirement money must be handled and protected. Employers and plan administrators across all 50 states are now on notice that they can be held accountable for how they manage the retirement savings of the people who worked their entire lives to build those funds. Let's make this real for a moment, because numbers and legal terms can sometimes feel distant from everyday life. Imagine a retired teacher named Margaret. She spent 35 years in a public school, contributed faithfully to her employer's 403b retirement plan, and trusted that her plan administrators were looking out for her best interests. But year after year, a portion of her savings was quietly eaten away by record-keeping fees that were far higher than the industry average. She noticed the numbers didn't quite add up, but when she asked questions, the answers were vague. Before this ruling, Margaret had almost no realistic legal path to challenge those fees. The legal system essentially required her to prove every element of her case before she could even get a day in court. Now, under the new Supreme Court standard, Margaret and millions of people just like her have a real, meaningful path to seek accountability. They can bring their case forward, and the institutions holding their money must answer for their decisions. Or consider Robert, a 62-year-old factory worker who spent his career contributing to a company pension plan. He's 5 years away from retirement and counting on that pension as a cornerstone of his financial plan. Under the old rules, if Robert suspected mismanagement, his only real option was to hope the Department of Labor stepped in. Under the new rules, Robert has greater legal standing to demand transparency and accountability, and those who manage his plan must now take that reality seriously. This is what a 9-0 Supreme Court ruling looks like when it reaches the kitchen table. But the story doesn't end there. At nearly the same time, another major change has been quietly reshaping Social Security for millions of Americans. And the two developments together paint a picture that every senior and future retiree needs to understand. In January 2025, the Social Security Fairness Act was signed into law. This law eliminates two provisions that had for decades unfairly reduced Social Security benefits for certain groups of public workers. The windfall elimination provision and the government pension offset, known as WEP and GPO, were rules that cut Social Security checks for teachers, firefighters, police officers, and other government employees who also received a public pension. Many of these workers had paid into Social Security during earlier careers or through part-time work, only to have those benefits drastically reduced or wiped out entirely. The Fairness Act changes that. These Americans will now receive Social Security benefits that more accurately reflect what they earned and paid into the system. For some retirees, this could mean hundreds of dollars more per month. For others, it means reinstating benefits they were told they would never see. And on top of that, 2026 has brought a fresh round of Social Security changes that every current and future retiree needs to know about. The Social Security Administration announced a 2.8% cost of living adjustment for 2026, which translates to approximately an additional $56 per month for the average retired worker, bringing the average monthly check to around $2,071. For married couples, the combined increase is roughly $88 per month. Additionally, the full retirement age, the age at which you qualify for 100% of your Social Security benefit, has continued its gradual increase. For people born in 1960 or later, the full retirement age officially reaches 67, a threshold that has been decades in the making. This means that if you were born in 1960 or after, and you claim benefits early, your monthly amount will be reduced more significantly than it was for previous generations. The decisions you make about when to claim Social Security have never been more consequential. If you are finding this information valuable, and if you want to stay ahead of these ongoing changes to Social Security, retirement law, and benefits that affect your financial future, make sure you subscribe to this channel right now and hit the notification bell. We break down these complex legal and financial developments in plain, clear language so that you, and everyone you care about, never get left behind when the rules change. Share this video with a family member or a friend who is approaching retirement. They need to hear this too. Now let's talk about the broader financial picture, because this is where things get very serious very quickly. The same Supreme Court ruling that strengthens protections for retirement plan participants also sends a clear message to every employer, university, hospital, and institution that sponsors a retirement plan in this country. The cost of mismanagement is no longer just a regulatory fine or a slap on the wrist. it is now potential class action litigation from the very employees and retirees those plans are supposed to serve. Experts are already predicting a significant increase in ERISA lawsuits across the country in the wake of this decision. Plan sponsors are being urged to conduct immediate reviews of their fee arrangements, to benchmark the cost of their record-keeping services against industry standards, and to document every fiduciary decision with careful detail. What this means for you is that pressure is being placed on the system in ways that could result in lower fees, better managed plans, and greater transparency, all things that protect your retirement savings over the long term. However, there is also a shadow hanging over Social Security that cannot be ignored. The Social Security Board of Trustees has warned that without congressional action to shore up the program's finances, the trust fund could face a point of insolvency that would trigger an automatic benefit cut of approximately 23% for all beneficiaries. That means a retiree currently receiving $2,000 per month could see that amount fall to roughly $1,540 overnight, not because of anything they did wrong, but because lawmakers failed to act. Analysts have estimated that future retirees, particularly those from Generation X, may need to save an additional $700 per month just to compensate for this potential shortfall. The clock is ticking, and Washington has not yet found the political will to address it. So what should you actually do with all of this information? The first and most important step is to get informed and stay informed. Changes to retirement law, Social Security rules, and Supreme Court decisions happen quickly and quietly, and the people who are most prepared are the ones who made it their business to stay engaged. Review your retirement plan statement carefully. Look at the fees being charged by your 401k or 403b plan and compare them to industry benchmarks. If something looks unusually high, ask questions. Thanks to this new Supreme Court ruling, the legal environment now provides more meaningful protection for people who speak up. If you receive a public pension and were previously affected by the windfall elimination provision or the government pension offset, contact the Social Security Administration to understand what the Fairness Act means for your specific situation. Verify that the SSA has your current mailing address and direct deposit information, so that any benefit changes are applied to your account without delay. If you are approaching retirement age, sit down with a qualified financial professional to review your claiming strategy in light of the updated full retirement age rules for 2026. The difference between claiming Social Security at the right time versus the wrong time can amount to tens of thousands of dollars over a lifetime of benefits. Review your overall retirement plan not just in terms of what you have saved, but in terms of how those savings are being managed and protected. Finally, pay attention to what is happening in Congress. The decisions being made right now about Social Security funding, tax policy, and retirement law will shape the financial landscape for every person in this country who is counting on those programs. Your awareness and your voice matter. Contact your representatives. Make sure they know that these issues are priorities for the people they serve. Here is the bottom line. A 9-0 Supreme Court decision just changed the retirement landscape for every working person and every retiree in this country. The court's ruling in Cunningham versus Cornell University has shifted the legal burden away from ordinary Americans and placed it squarely on the shoulders of the institutions managing their money. At the same time, the Social Security Fairness Act has restored benefits to millions of public sector workers who were unfairly penalized for decades. And 2026 has brought new COLA adjustments, new full retirement age thresholds, and new earnings rules that every person planning their financial future must understand. These are not abstract policy changes. These are real shifts in real laws that affect real money, your money. The people who understand what is happening will be in a far stronger position than those who don't. If you made it to the end of this video, you are already ahead of most people. Now take one more step. Subscribe to this channel so you never miss a critical update like this one. Leave a comment below and tell us what state you live in. We want to know how these changes are affecting communities across the country. And share this video with someone you know who is approaching retirement or who relies on Social Security. It could make a real difference in their financial future. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next one. This video is for educational and informational purposes only and should not be considered financial or legal advice. The information presented is based on publicly available sources and is intended to help viewers understand general developments in retirement law and Social Security policy. Every individual's financial and legal situation is unique. Please consult a qualified financial advisor or attorney for guidance specific to your personal circumstances.